Hello everyone. So today we will continue our study on statistical physics. Today we will learn about ensembles. That is very important to understand the topics of statistical physics, the theories of statistical physics, and then we will see the Boltzmann entropy relationship. We have until now we have seen many concepts, the postulates of statistical physics, and we will continue with that. So the objective of today's lecture is to understand the concept of ensembles and its classification. There are three different types of ensembles which we use for practical applications, practical needs. So we will understand all of them. Then the next objective of today's lecture is to understand Boltzmann entropy probability relation. This is also very important relationship because it somehow connects the thermodynamics and statistical physics. Okay, so after attending this lecture, there are several outcomes which you will get to know. You will be able to learn about the definition of ensemble and their classification. And then secondly, you will learn about the equilibrium between two systems in thermal contact. And finally, you will get the knowledge of Boltzmann entropy probability relation. Okay, so here is the content of the lecture. The first one is statistical ensembles, and then there are three different types of ensemble: micro-canonical ensemble, second is canonical ensemble, and the last one is grand canonical ensemble. We will study all of them one by one. The next topic will cover equilibrium between two systems which are in thermal contact, how this equilibrium attains. Okay. The next topic is the bridge with macroscopic physics. And finally, the lecture will end up with Boltzmann entropy probability relation. So here are the reference books which you can study further about all these topics. These are very simply written and very well explained topics are given here. Okay, so let us start with the first topic, that is statistical ensembles. Actually, it is already known that there are very large number of states of any gas corresponds to a given macroscopic condition of the gas, because there are infinite number of ways to distribute the molecules in space. So whenever we talk about the gas under some particular macroscopic conditions, we don't talk about only a single state, but we talk about an infinite number of states. Okay, or if we call it in other words, we say that we do not talk about a single system, but to a collection of the systems which are identical in composition and macroscopic conditions, but they are existing in different states. And this statement Gibbs has presented in different way. According to Gibbs, he suggested that such a collection of systems is known as ensemble, which is geometrically represented by a distribution of representative points in gamma space. That means an ensemble can be defined as a collection of large number macroscopically identical but essentially independent systems. Okay, these are the definition of statistical ensembles in different words and according to Gibbs. So there are two different terms which are commonly used when we talk about ensembles. The first one is macroscopically identical. We have just now used these words, macroscopical identical. So what is macroscopically identical? Where the macroscopic properties are similar for two systems or more systems. All these systems are known as macroscopically identical. That means we can write it: macroscopically identical system means the system which holds same macroscopic conditions. And what are macroscopic conditions? These are volume, energy, pressure, temperature, etc. There are a lot of macroscopic conditions. Then second term was independent system. And independent system, as the word itself suggesting, Independent system means a system which constitute an ensemble that are mutually non-interacting, right? So independent systems, the means what it means, it means that the presence of one system does not affect the properties of other system. If there are two different systems, if this system does not affect the properties of this system, then these two systems are known as independent system from each other. Now, we will see what are the classification of ensembles based on their need in practical systems. So, according to Gibbs, there are three standard ensemble to which real experiment can be approximated on the basis of different parameters, for example, energy, volume, temperature, or different things, right? So we will see one by one. There are three: microcanonical ensemble, second is canonical ensemble, and third one is grand canonical ensemble. These classifications were based on the interaction of the systems. Okay, so let us start with the first ensemble, that is microcanonical ensemble. So a microcanonical ensemble is a collection of essentially independent systems which are having three parameters: same energy, same volume, and number of particles, right? So for simplicity, we can assume that these particles are identical. The individual system of a macrocanonical ensembles are separated by three conditions. One is rigid, impermeable, and well insulated walls. If you see in this image, you can see here these are different systems, three systems. All of these systems are having same energy, volume, and number of particles. Now they are separated with the walls which are rigid. Why it is rigid? So that volume should not be changed of each of the system. This is the condition to be considered as an ensemble. So the walls are rigid to make volume constant. Second is the walls are impermeable. Impermeable so that the particles from one system should not be allowed to move into second system. They should not be allowed to exchange between the system. That's why the walls are completely impermeable. And the third point is well insulated walls. Well insulated means there should be no exchange of heat energy, no exchange of energy between the system or the surroundings. So that means these are insulated walls. Okay, these three are the requirement so that E, V, and N for a particular system does not affect the properties of the neighborhood system. That is the condition for ensemble, right? Or independent. In this way, these all are independent systems. Okay, now we will understand the second type of ensemble, that is canonical ensemble. And canonical ensemble, what is? It is a collection of essentially independent systems which are having same temperature, volume, and number of particles. And this, how we can achieve this? Earlier the walls were rigid, impermeable, and well insulated so that there should be no effect on volume, no effect on energy, no effect on number of particles. But now the energy E is replaced by T. So this can be achieved by putting all the system in thermal contact with a large heat reservoir which is at constant temperature, or we can keep it thermally connected with each other, right? So that the temperature of all the systems are same. And that's why we are using the diathermic walls between these systems. So the individual system of a canonical ensembles are separated by rigid. Why it is rigid? So that the volume of this system should not be changed. It is rigid system. Then second one is impermeable, so that the number of particles should remain constant in each of the system. And the third thing was changed. In earlier case, microcanonical case, we have used the perfectly insulated wall so that the temperature or energy should not be exchanged. But here, since we are using the same temperature for all the system, they should be in thermal contact. That means diathermic walls should be there in between of them. Okay, so now we will see about grand canonical ensemble. Actually, we have seen from the first two systems, microcanonical and canonical ensembles, we have seen that there is a relaxation of constant energy. In first system, microcanonical energy was kept constant, but in the second canonical ensemble, the condition was relaxed. Why? Because there are several thermodynamic calculations where energy exchange is essential, and it is commonly takes place during these reactions, these calculations, right? So it was a first step and was in very nice direction. Now there are many experiments, many conditions where the number of particles also does not remain constant. There are several chemical processes. For example, radioactive decay is a good example of the process where number of particles does not remain constant. So according to that need, one new ensemble is introduced, which is known as grand canonical ensemble. And for this grand canonical ensemble, it is a collection of essentially independent systems which are having same temperature, same volume, and chemical potential mu. Okay, these individual systems are separated by rigid, but now these walls are permeable, and that's why I have shown here by the dotted lines. Now they are allowed to exchange the number of particles, but the chemical potential should be same, should be constant, and that's why we are using rigid to maintain constant volume, permeable to allow particles go here and there, and conducting walls so that the temperature of each system should be similar. Okay, this is about grand canonical ensemble. This is the basic thing about the ensembles. Now, the next topic deals with the equilibrium condition between two systems which are in thermal contact. We will see how they are in thermal contact and how they will exchange the energy. So we know that two systems are normally said to be in thermal contact if they are capable of exchanging energy. Otherwise, they are thermally insulated, right? So now let us consider that there are two systems A and B which are having the volume BA and BV, and the number of particles of in each system is Na and Nb respectively, right? The total energy of both system A and B are represented by capital E. Now let us see how this energy is shared between these two systems, these two partitions. We are considering that these two A and B are in good thermal contact. They can exchange the heat between them. Okay, so how to get the value of energy each of the system is having? This can be obtained by deriving the condition of maximum probability. We have studied the maximum probability that each system wants to come to the state which is having maximum probability under the given constraints, right? Now let us assume that EA is the total energy of system A, right? Right now, if we consider the principle of conservation of energy, what will be energy of system B? It will be given by EB equals to total energy E minus energy of system A, that is EA. So our equation will become EB equals to E minus EA, right? Now, if we think about the probability that what is the probability of system A to have energy EA? What will be the probability? It is simply PEA equals to C into WEA. So probability is equals to the constant and the total microstates, number of microstates, right? So PEA equals to CWEA. The WEA is the number of microstates for system A in energy range delta E, and C is just a constant. Now, in the same way, it is for PEA, we can write the same thing for system B. The probability for system B to possess energy EV will be given by PEB equals to C dash into W dash EB, where C dash is another constant and W dash EB the number of microstates for system B. Right now, if we want to know the probability of all the events happening here, I mean the probability of system A having energy A and system B to having energy EB, then it will follow the rule of joint probability. That means the multiplication of both probabilities. So the probability together of this will be represented by P of EA EB equals to these two multiplication. That means C into C dash into WEA into W dash EB. So this is our equation. Now, if both the system are in thermal contact, that means they will exchange energy until they do not attain the same temperature or equilibrium state they do not attain. In this case, what will happen? The probability of the system will have the maximum value that we have already studied about. The equilibrium state is always a state of maximum probability, right? And for maximum probability, what is the condition? The differentiation of the probability should be 0. So we are applying now this fact. We are getting the differentiation of we are taking, sorry, not differentiation, it is logarithmic. So we are taking the logarithmic of this log PEA upon EA into EA and EB equals to log of CC dash, because these are constant, plus log WEA plus log W dash EB. This is our equation number 5. Now, if we differentiate it, now why we take log? Because mathematically it is very easy to deal with the logarithmic of the original function. That's why we have taken the logarithmic, and now the differentiation of this should be 0 for the maximum probability condition. So that's why we are putting now the differentiation of this equation equals to 0, and on the right hand side, on the right hand side we will take the differentiation of this. So the log CC dash term will be 0 because all of them is 0 of constant, so the differentiation of that will be 0. Now the second thing is log WEA, the differentiation will be del upon del EA plus del over del EB of log W dash EB into del EB upon del EA. This differentiation was with respect to EA. Right now, if we consider equation number 1, which was this one, if we differentiate it, del EB upon del EA, what it will be? Del E upon del EA will be 0 because this will be constant for whole system, and here it will be minus del EA upon del EA, that means minus 1. So putting this here, del EB upon del EA equals to minus 1. Now putting this value in this equation, what we get is del upon del EA into log WEA. It will become minus due to this sign, minus del upon del EB log W dash EB, right? So our final equation will become like this. Now, according to statistical mechanics, the two systems are said to be in thermal contact in equilibrium if their function del upon del EA log W are equal. These two are equal, then they would be said in thermal equilibrium with in thermal contact, right? In equilibrium in thermal contact. So this equation, this relation is true for all the systems in our practical life. Now, what is the bridge with macroscopic physics? We will understand now. The function del upon del E log W is normally represented by another parameter in short form, that is beta. So using this we can write beta equals to del upon del EA log W, and this we can write 1 upon W del W upon del EA, because we are doing differentiation of this. So when we do this differentiation, 1 upon W into del W upon del EA, right? Similarly, we can get for the other one, we get beta dash equals to del upon del EB log W equals to 1 upon W del W upon del EA. So this is with respect to EA and EB, right? Now, because we have already established the thermal equilibrium condition, and that was specified by equation number 7. So that means beta should be equals to beta dash. If we consider it in terms of temperature, the thermal equilibrium can be considered by T equals to T dash. If we are talking about temperature, then it should also be same if they are in thermal equilibrium, right? That means the macroscopic parameter temperature is reached to constant and attain maximum value. Or in other way, we can say that the equality of temperature between the two systems in thermal contact does mean that the equality of beta parameters of the two systems, right? This fact is applied to define temperature. A macroscopic parameter B1 upon beta equals to Kt, and 1 upon beta dash equals to Kt dash, right? Where K is constant and choice of K depends upon the scale whatever we are selecting. The dimension of this K are erg degree inverse. Now, if we consider any spontaneous processes, what are spontaneous processes? Which occur by itself, right? And why they occur? They occur to attain a more probable state comparison to less probable state. This is now what we are doing. We are now trying to understand Boltzmann entropy probability relation. So we know that spontaneous processes are those processes where entropy increases, and these are the processes where the state is changed from the less probable state to maximum probability state or more probable state, right? That's what we have seen already, right? So that means if we want to correlate these, entropy and the probability should have some relation, right? And that idea was came into Boltzmann mind, and he started thinking and derived a relation between the entropy and probability of a system, right? According to statistical theory, what is known? It is known that equilibrium state of any system is the state with maximum thermodynamic probability. That we have already seen. Equilibrium state is having maximum probability. Now, if we think according to thermodynamic point of view, what is happening? Equilibrium state is a state where the entropy value is its maximum state. So the entropy should be maximum for the equilibrium state, and that's why these two are correlated. So to derive the relation, actually there are two different methods, right? First method is based on thermodynamics, and second is using the statistical approach. So we will see both method one by one. The first one, according to thermodynamics, we know about entropy S and how it is related according to second law of thermodynamics, that is given by del Q equals to T del S, or we can call it del E also, that is energy. So using this relation, we get 1 upon T equals to del S upon del E. We are just rearranging this and we get equation number 1. Now, according to statistical approach, we have just now seen that 1 upon T equals to K beta, and beta we can replace del upon del E of log W. So we have got two different relations, and they are giving, both of them are giving the value of 1 by T. So if we compare these two, what we get is del S upon del E equals to K into del upon del E into log W. Now, if we integrate this equation, we simply get the relation S equals to K log W, and this is our desired Boltzmann entropy probability relation. Here S is entropy, W is probability, and K is Boltzmann constant. Now, we will see how the second method works. For the second method, actually, Boltzmann assumed that entropy S of a physical system in a definite state is a function of maximum probability W of that state. That means entropy is a function of W. So we can write S equals to FW. This is our equation number 1. Now let us consider two totally independent systems. One is A and second one is B. Now the entropies of both these systems are given by S1 and S2. S1 is for A, S2 is for system B. Now we know from the property of entropy that entropy is an extensive quantity. Extensive quantity means it is additive quantity. If there are two different systems, the entropy of these two systems together will be given by S equals to S1 plus S2. Right? This is from the basic definition of entropy and the quality of entropy as extensive quantity. Now let us assume that W1 is the probability of system A and W2 is the probability of system B. So the total probability of the system will be given by the rule of product, the product rule of probability. So that means the total probability W will be given by W1 into W2, right? This is our equation number 3. Now we have got different equations and now we will consider all of them. Now we know from equation 1 it is S equals to Fw, and we have already seen from equation 3 that W can be written as W1 into W2. Here you can see from this equation, right? Now in the same way, because since this is SFW, in the same way we can write S1 should also be function of W1, that is individual probability, right? The entropy of system 1 should be individual function of individual probability of system 1. Similarly, S2 can also be given by FW2. Now we have three different relations, S equals to Fw, and that is equals to Fw1 into W2, S1 Fw1, S2 Fw2. Now putting all these equations in equation number 2, here you see S, S1 and S2, all the values should be put it here. So Fw1 into W2 equals to Fw1 plus Fw2. This is our equation number 7. Now if we differentiate it partially with respect to W1 and with respect to W2, what we get is, now if we differentiate, because this is a function of both W1 and W2, so if we differentiate this, what we get is W2 F dash W1 W2. F dash is the differentiation of this function, right? Now we are differentiating with respect to W1, that means W1 is constant, so from here the term W2 will only come outside. So W2 into F dash W1 into W2, and this side, because we are differentiating with respect to W1, we will get F dash W1 and this term will become 0. Similarly, if we differentiate this with respect to W2, what we get? We get the other term W1 into F dash W1 W2 equals to, since now we are doing W2 with respect to W2, this term will 0 and this term will change to F dash W2, right? So we have got these two equations now. Now if we divide these two equations by each other, so it will give you this term and this term is quite common, is they will cancel out each other, and what we get is W2 upon W1 equals to F dash W1 upon F dash W2. Or if we rearrange this, we can write W1 F dash W1 equals to W2 F dash W2. There is a cross multiplication, and that means you can see here W1 F dash W1, W2 F dash W2. Similarly, we can write Wn F dash Wn, and that means this should be constant. The multiplication of W2 and F dash W2 should be constant. We have assumed that this constant is equals to K. So from here we get the value of F dash W1 equals to K upon W1 dash. And similarly, F dash W2 equals to K upon W2 from here, right? Now, if this is true for 1, 2, and so on for n. That means we can write in generalized way, and what we can write, Fw equals to K upon W equals to constant, right? If we integrate these equations, what we get is we will change f dash to f only. Integrating it will take to the original term. So that means Fw1 equals to, for this it will become K log W1, right? And similarly here we will get Fw2 equals to K log W2, because log W2 differentiation is 1 upon W2. Okay, so if we do integrate in the opposite way, it will change to K log W2. Since we are doing the integration, there will be a constant also, integration constant in plus. So plus C1, and for second equation it will be plus C2. Now if we write this in a generalized way, what it will become, Fw equals to K log W plus C. And if we change from equation 1, what we have considered in equation 1, we have considered S equals to Fw. So we will change this Fw to S again, K log W plus C, S equals to K log W plus C. This is our final expression. Now we can calculate the value of this constant by putting the condition at absolute 0. What will be happening at absolute 0? S will become 0 and W will become 1. That the probability will be maximum. That means S equals to 0 and K log 1. Log 1 is again 0. That means it will make C equals to 0. Putting these values in this condition, it will give you S equals to K log W. This is the required relation which was given by Boltzmann and known as entropy probability relation. Right? Here K is a universal constant which is known as Boltzmann constant. And this Boltzmann entropy relation states that the entropy of a system is proportional to, this is we can consider as a proportionality constant. So the entropy of this system is directly proportional to the logarithmic of thermodynamic probability of that system. So that is all for today's lecture. We have studied about the ensembles. We will recall it again once more. So we started with ensembles. We have defined ensemble as a collection of large number macroscopically identical but essentially independent system. Then we have learned about these two terms. Macroscopically identical systems are those systems which are having similar macroscopical properties. That means pressure, temperature, volume, etc. And independent systems are those systems by which we can say that the presence of one system does not affect the properties of other system. In that condition, those systems are known as independent systems, right? We have seen these two definitions, and then we have classified the ensembles in three different parts. One is microcanonical, which was according to E, V, and N, keeping these terms constant by protecting all these systems by rigid, impermeable, and well-insulated walls. The second come up by replacing E with T. Here E is no more constant. Now the temperature of each system should be constant, and that could be achieved by two different methods. One, by connecting all these to a heat reservoir at constant temperature, or we can combine these all systems together through a rigid, impermeable but diathermic wall. Diathermic wall means the temperature can be exchanged, heat can be exchanged between them, and that's why the temperature will remain constant. Rigid is to maintain the volume constant, while impermeable is to make number of molecules constant in each system. Now the third one is again another development, because many systems does not need particle as a constant number. So to replace this particle, we have introduced new term chemical potential, and the grand canonical ensemble is the ensemble which is having the constant value of T, V, and mu for each system. This was achieved by separating these systems through a rigid, permeable, and conducting walls. Right? Then we have seen how the energy is shared by two different systems in equilibrium condition. they are in thermal contact. We have derived the relationship. We have seen that the beta value should be equal for both the system to make them thermal equilibrium, right? Then we have seen the bridge with microscopic physics. We have derived this relation 1 upon beta equals to kT, and then finally the Boltzmann entropy probability relation was derived, which is important and given by S equals to K log W. That means the entropy is directly related to the maximum probability logarithmic of the thermodynamic probability of that system. Now we will solve some questions of our quiz. So today's quiz is here now. It is having 10 questions. Let us start this. The first question is, in a system having n molecules, the degree of freedom will be given by 3, 6, NF or 1. We already know that degree of freedom according to statistical theory. We know that the degree of freedom is directly related to the coordinates of the particle, and the particle coordinates are given here, the position coordinates by F, and also the similarly the momentum coordinates also 3. So if they are not 3, they are considered as F coordinates. So for one particle it is F degree freedom, right? If any system is having n molecules, then it will have the multiplication of number of molecules and degree of freedom for one molecule. That means n into F. So the right answer for this question is option C. It is NF. Now the second question is, the total number of dimensions in phase space are given by 3, 6, 1 or not fixed. Okay, so do you remember what is phase space? Phase space is a combination of position space and momentum space. And how many coordinates are there in each of these space? Phase space, not position space, does have 3 coordinates, that is x, y and z, and momentum space also have 3 coordinates, that is px, py and pz. And phase space is nothing, that is a combination of these two spaces. That means the coordinates will also be add up, that means 3 plus 3, and that is equals to 6 dimensions should be there for a phase space. So the right answer should be option B. Now the third question for today's quiz is, the probability of occurrence of 2 independent events is equal to their sum, difference, product and ratio. We have seen today in our derivation that the probability of occurrence of 2 independent events is given by the product of individual probability. So the answer is option C. The probability of occurrence of 2 independent events is equal to their product, their multiplication. Now the next question is, 5 particles are distributed in 2 phase cells. Okay, now we have to calculate the number of microstates. So the right answer is option A, which is 6. We have considered this when we were studying about macrostate and microstate, where there we have seen that the microstate is always equals to n plus 1, where n are the particles, number of particles, and the compartment were considered as 2. Here also these phase cells are like a compartment and particles are now 5. So it will be 5 plus 1 equals to 6. The right option is option A. This is the right answer. Now the next question is, the probability of any event cannot be 0, 1, 1 by 2 or negative. Definitely we can see 1 by 1, 0. Of course, if the event is not sure, the probability will be 0. If the event is sure, the probability will be 1. And 1 by 2 can also be option, because the probability lies between 0 and 1. Either it will be sure or it will not be sure. So the maximum and minimum limits are 0 and 1. That's why 1 by 2 cannot be answered. The last option is negative, which should be the answer for this question. The probability of any event cannot be negative in any case. So this is the right answer. The next question is, the thermodynamic probability of a system in equilibrium is maximum, minimum but not 1 or 0. So we have seen already equilibrium state is a state of maximum thermodynamic probability, and that's why is trying uh, each system try to go from lower thermodynamic probability to higher thermodynamic probability. So this is the right answer, option A. The next question is the number of permutations of four objects taking two at a time will be given by 4, 6, 8 or 12. This is the question of NPR. If you remember the formula, NPR is given by factorial n divided by factorial n minus r. Here n is 4, r is given 2. So NPR will be 4p2 equals to factorial 4 divided by factorial 4 minus 2. That means factorial 4 divided by factorial 2. If we solve this, we will get the answer as 12. So the right option is option D. The next question is, in the equilibrium state, probability is maximum. Beta parameter of two systems are equal. Both A and B or number of particles is maximum. We have just now seen that two systems are in equilibrium state. In that case, their beta parameter that should be same. And also we have seen that equilibrium state is achieved when all the systems try to reach from lower state to the maximum probability state. So that means both of the two first statement A and B are correct. That means the right answer for this question will be C, both A and B. So this is the right answer. The next question is, the probability of a sure event is 0, infinity, 1 or not certain. So we know sure event means the probability is 1. So the right answer for this question will be 1. Option C is the right answer. The last question of today's quiz is, constraints imposed on a system increase the number of inaccessible microstates, decrease the number of inaccessible microstates, have no effect. So we have already seen that constraints, when they are imposed on a system, they reduce the number of macrostate as well as microstate, and that means it increase the number of inaccessible microstates, right? So the right answer for this question is option A. So today we have learned about very important topics that are statistical ensembles, and then finally we have gone to Boltzmann entropy probability relation that is given by S equals to K log W. I hope all the topics were very clear and you could understand them nicely. Still, if you have any questions, any queries, you are welcome to put your comments on the video that is on our YouTube channel. The other topics related to statistical physics are also available on our YouTube channel of Suresh Gyan Bihar University School of Applied Sciences. Right? You are welcome to send an email if you have any query. I would be happy to answer all of the queries, all of the questions asking by you. Right? Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your patience.